There's a screen time and a no screen time.
You will inevitably get resistance. We get it all the time. The more consistent you are, the less and less the resistance will come. Connect. That's the most important strategy.
Welcome to the Dad Central Show, the podcast that helps overwhelmed dads conquer stress, build confidence, and become the father their family brags about. Join Drew Solon, a leadership coach and father of 5, and Ed Gow Jr., a fatherhood advocate and contributor to the Good Men Project, as we guide you through the journey of fatherhood. We'll show you how to connect deeply with your family, manage your time and energy better, and master tools to become the dad you want to be. Let's get started. What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. and the Morning Guy. Hello, Morning Guy.
Hello, Ed. It is Drew Solon from Dad Central and Connected Dads. How are you this morning?
I am outstanding. And how about yourself?
Good. Summer vacation.
Good.
It's busy. Schedules are a little bit hectic, but the weather is great for the most part. And I love being outside. As if you're looking, you can see that I've got a little bit of a good color going. So.
All right. Well, you are watching and listening to Dad Central, a parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. Also, we are sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there is a positive impact. You know what? Have you ever felt like screens are winning the battle at your house, Dad? You're not alone, and we're going to help with today's conversation topic, managing screen time and summer tech use. And why does screen time spike over the summer? Boredom, lack of structure, remote distractions, and some of the common struggles that dads have are saying yes too often, power struggles over limits, and tech as babysitter during work hours. So, Drew, before we get into the 3 things we're going to chat about today, which are strategies at work, alternatives to screen time, and navigating resistance and staying consistent. What are your thoughts before we get into it?
Well, this is an important one, but a challenging one. I have 14, 2 12-year-olds, a 9-year-old, and of course, a 2-year-old. And the moment you put them in front of screens, they become zombies. And so, and it's hard to get them off. So I'm not sure there's a dad or parent out there who doesn't experience something similar in their home when screens are part of the equation. So, both Kristen and I have our own internal reactions when we see I'm going to say the inability of our children to really disengage from screen. And then we have to check ourselves and say, well, Kristen, Drew, what's your ability to disengage from the screen? So we often think about, okay, what are we doing and how are we modeling it? And so that's obviously important, and we'll talk more about it later. But I think I've been very clear about my stance on screens. The research that's coming out is unequivocal, I'd say, about the dangers and damage that it's causing to the brains of our young people. And then the long-term impacts of those are not even known. And now I feel like with this AI generation of the content that's out there, is you have no idea what it is because AI could be generating it, and it can fool you. Nobody can tell. So I think there's a significant, even higher risk for our children if we don't take this topic very seriously and understand the dangers. To put it in perspective, we have good friends, very wise, very strong family, and they put it this way: we think of cell phones and screens as cigarettes for our children. And how would we approach managing their exposure to something like that, such as harmful and destructive? And so, you know, do cell phones need a Surgeon General's warning? Tongue in cheek there. But the reality is that's how serious it is. In fact, I'd say it's even more serious because you don't see, the ramifications of this screen time epidemic, I'd say. Anyways,
Wow. So you can tell that Drew's all in. Yes, you can tell Drew's going all in on this one. So let's talk about the first solution. Let's talk about strategies at work. What do you have to say on that?
yeah, well, there's two parts to this, and yes, I know our point here, the first point is that families need to work together on this, collaborate. Parents, co-parents, wherever there should be some consistency there, and but including children in the process and getting to a family tech agreement. Here's my challenge, or the additional part that I want to add to this is, you as a parent need to manage, I'd say, yourself and manage your own expectations in the process of developing something that is everyone, we need to all agree on how this is going to work together. Now, that doesn't mean you defer to your children because you are the parent, but it means that you do your best to get buy-in as best as possible and give them. It's like when toddlers are young, you learn to give them choices. Would you like to eat now or in 5 minutes from now? They don't have a choice to eat. It's just when they eat. And so you've got to find ways. How do I give my children some sense of control or some sense of autonomy in this, but knowing that there's no deviating from the what you as a parent recognize as the appropriate, reasonable things to have in this family agreement. So a practical strategy is include kids in the process, give them choices where they can have choices, and come to a family agreement, right? I think that's really important. You've got a couple other points, or we've got a few other points to mention as well.
Yeah, just adding on to what Drew is sharing, creating a daily rhythm. Like, and what we mean by that is there's a tech time and a no tech time, and there's a screen time and a no screen time. And not only should this be done during the school year, but especially during the summertime too. Because again, homework is none unless your kids are going to summer school, but establishing that boundary right from the beginning, just adding on to what Drew said, it doesn't mean no, it's this time and this time, not none at all. This time you're on, this time you're off. And again, one of the common practices is, especially when you're eating, stay off the phone with your kids. Stay off that phone.
Okay, so dinner time for us is there's no devices anywhere in the room,
Good. Okay.
right? Now, every now and then I get called on this by my kids, whether it's because somebody's sent me a message that I typically don't watch it, or I know that there's something coming up that I need to check. But they rightfully call me on it because that's been our standard right from the beginning. So establishing standards is important, being consistent and following through, and making sure that there, as Ed's saying, those there are no tech situations. The one family, they have a tech bin essentially, and it applies not only for their family but it applies for anyone who comes into their house. And these are
I like
teenagers,
that.
and what
I
they
like
they
that.
do is the moment that they walk through the threshold of the door, they know that the device goes in the tech bin and it stays there until it's needed or to be used or they're allowed to use it, and it's for the family and for anyone who comes into the house. So we established something similar, and one teenager came over. Okay, they saw it. They followed through right away. We really respected that. And the next time they came over, we didn't even have to mention it to them. We just looked, and they went and put their phone right where they needed to put it. So important to do those things and be consistent.
Yeah, I just want
So
to
the
add.
next
Oh, go
one,
ahead.
unless you want to add, Ed, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
The next practical thoughts are, tech tools are those, and tools are valuable, and there are ways for children to learn. So the point here is use the tech for good, things that children are maybe drawn to or valuable, that contribute not only to themselves and their enjoyment, but sometimes to the family. So as an example, Sophia loves to create videos. Actually, she's quite good at
Mm,
this. And so
mm.
we empower Sophia to say, hey, Sophia, here's some pictures, here's videos from the family trips or for different experiences. We'd love to see, what do you create for us? And so that is giving her a productive use of the tech to do things that not only benefit her because she enjoys doing it, but it benefits all of us as well. Or my kids are, they want to play games on my phone every now and then. I pick values based games, or I pick games that are a little bit more learning. So, one of the games we have is Wordscapes. My 6-year-old on my phone is not what's something I'd love to do. But at the end of the day, if they're what they're doing is having to learn about words and letters, and it's actually, to me, they really enjoy that. And I say, okay, that to me is a good use of this screen time when it's appropriate, when it's reasonable, because they're actually growing and developing and learning some skills or some knowledge that's So those are some thoughts around using tech for good because it is valuable.
Good stuff. And we'll just end off this section with this point: role model healthy tech use as a dad. And Drew brought up that a little bit a few moments ago. But if you want your kids to be healthy tech users, it all starts with you. So let's move to our second solution today. Oh, you want to say something to that?
Do you want to just say one final point? When
Okay.
we say that these are strategies that work, we always have to remember, and I think of Jack Armstrong, who had this great bulletin board material. He goes, and he said, rules without relationship equals rebellion. Rules
Mhm.
with relationship equals results. And to me, a strategy that works first and foremost above all of this stuff that we're talking about is building a healthy, strong, connected relationship with your child. So if you don't feel like you have that and you don't see the respect and the collaboration and the connection with your child, these are not going to be as valuable for you because that is more important than just doing these strategies and creating even more rebellion and resistance and destruction in your relationship. So, first and foremost, connect. That's the most
Yeah.
important strategy.
Yeah. The human, even though we're talking about digital stuff, it all the foundation is human relationship.
Amen. Yes, it
Right?
is.
100%, 100%. Let's go to our second point here, alternatives to screen time. What are your thoughts about this?
Oh man, it's funny. Again, another good friend of mine. We talk about it every now and then, and he has this joke with his kids. I'm not sure if I'll get it right, but I'll do my best. He's like, "Yeah, you guys wanna watch something?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Okay, go outside and watch nature." That's his screen time. I don't
Wow,
think,
I love that.
and so you know, he's like, they've got a good property. They've got 13 acres. They've got animals. They've got things that they can go and do, and so that's his encouragement to them in tongue in cheek way. So alternatives to screen time are getting outside. We've got a great episode about outdoor activities. Also, just free time. So we used to, and Chris and I are talking about bringing this back in over the course of this summer. Is that there are these periods of time where you're free to do almost anything that you want within reason, either here or close to the home for some of the older kids, but it can't involve a screen. So again, back to this idea of autonomy and choice. That's their time. There's no structure, there's no requirement except for they can't be on a screen. And this final one that I'll add here is sometimes it's good for kids to be bored. Now, you may have to manage their behavior when they're bored, or you may have to manage the initial resistance. But it's a great opportunity. And the simple line that I borrow from Dr. Laura Markham, because she agrees that boredom is actually good for kids. It helps them develop creativity, resourcefulness, a lot of these valuable life skills. Is that, oh, if they come to you, hey, I'm bored, Dad. You're like, oh, that's great. What a unique opportunity then for you to get creative and use your time in a way that maybe you would normally. It's an opportunity to just say, hey, or another dad I know, he said, okay, if they come to me and they say I'm bored, okay, great, I got something for you to do. And he gives them a list of 3 chores they've got to get it done in the next hour. How many times do you think they'll come back to him and say, I'm bored, Dad? They probably
Mm,
won't. But that's the first
mm.
response in terms of, okay, you're bored, I got something for you. Here it is, and puts them to work.
There you go.
So to me, these are some really good alternatives to this idea of screen
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I just want to add some quick things. Think suggesting to dads and fathers, meal caregivers, plan simple activities like dad kid challenges, build something, cook. I see more and more dads cooking with their kids, which I think is
Yeah.
amazing.
Mhm.
Inventing a game, as Drew said just a few moments ago, create something, let their creativity flow, and have tech free adventure days. And just wrapping this section up, we would just want to encourage dads connect with other dads for shared activities or screen free community events. Ask other dads, hey, are there any sort of things that you do outside of the tech with your kids? Again, build that sense of community. Last thing
Yeah,
we're
the
going to,
other point I'll add to
yeah.
that is do something with another family, another
Hmm.
friend, or other, just other kids, right? So go out to the park, go for, play game of baseball, whatever it is. Just do something with other families, and I think that builds that connection because it's so much better to relate to another person than to just relate to this screen.
100%. Final point we're going to chat about today is navigating resistance. That never happens with kids and technology, and staying consistent. What do you got to say about that, man?
Yeah, it's going to happen. You will inevitably get resistance. We get it all the time. The more consistent you are in handling the resistance well, and holding to your limits and boundaries, the less and less the resistance will come. They'll just know it's expectation. So the key here, though, is empathy, because it shows that you understand and can relate to the feelings that your children have. And that makes all the difference in the world when it comes to reestablishing a limit. So empathy simply sounds like, yeah, I know it's hard not to have your screen right now. I know you really enjoy it. You like staying connected to your friends. You like playing the games. You like being on the internet. But the reality is, this is not a time where you're going to use your screen. I understand, but it's not changing. So there's the empathy, right? I know it's hard. You may not agree with them the way they're whining and complaining, but that doesn't matter. You just need to show that you understand that it's hard to not have the screen. And then you have to calmly and reasonably reestablish the limit. Where this gets challenging is when it's like the 30th time in the last 30 minutes that they bring up how hard it is and how bored they are and how they don't think it's fair. And I experienced this with one of my children. This child is, I'll say, extremely challenging in the numbers of times that they follow up, in the creative ways they try and like get around the limit and the barrier. They'll come up with ideas or reasons why they've got to, somehow have the screen. And sometimes they're quite convincing, and it's almost quite compelling. Like, because you think about it, like, oh, that's actually pretty reasonable. I mean, it just shows the intelligence of our children. But really what's behind is, I just want my screen. And so this is where the challenge of, well, having empathy through that, but also sometimes you have to shift to more boundary. And in this instance, here's what I say: if you ask me that question one more time, I will remove it for an extra 24 hours. You cross this boundary, guess what happens? You get further consequences or further results of your choices. And again, the key about boundaries is using the words I as opposed to you, and making accusations or making threats. Nothing like that. That's not appropriate. It's not helpful. You want the child to know that, okay, I've heard you. However, it's not changing. Empathy, number one tool. It's hard. I get it, but it's not changing.
All right. I just want to add, don't be afraid to let your kids fail forward. Allow them to self-correct, and you're there for support. And then finally, dads, it's okay not to get it perfect. Progress over perfection. Progress over
Yeah,
perfection.
that's a very important point.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we wind down this episode, we covered three things: strategies at work, alternatives to screen time, navigating resistance and staying consistent. Also, I want to give everyone who's listening or watching this some big takeaways. Be proactive. Don't wait till you're until you're frustrated. Make a plan. Then again, balance is the goal, not perfection. And then your presence and boundaries create safety, even if your kids don't show it now. Drew, any final comments and a call to action?
Final comments are that this is a challenging dynamic. The reality is, screens are everywhere. Many children at very young ages get introduced to screens, and it becomes part of their day to day, almost a habit. Well, definitely a habit, and in negative cases, an addiction. Our job as parents is to protect our children from these dangers, and it is not easy. So I want to have some empathy for the dads out there. I'm living it. I know it for sure. But in terms of that last point Ed makes, it is absolutely about helping your children know that it is safe, with, that your focus is their safety and their long-term benefit. And I used to have a coach who would say, this is short-term pain for much longer term gain. And the short-term pain is, it's going to be difficult and the kids are going to resist, but I can guarantee you, you don't want to be on the other side of this, where your child is literally addicted to the screen and it derails their future as a result. So take this as an opportunity to really reestablish something for their benefit. Oh, and the final what resource we have, we've got a age by age guide to screen free adventures. What dad doesn't like doing activities with their kids, and sometimes it's hard to get creative. You can get into a rut. This has got a bunch of unique ideas for different ages, from very young, sort of two to 4 or 5, all the way up to preteen and early teen opportunities, ways to get active with your kids.
Fantastic. Well, want to say, as always, thanks everyone for watching and giving the most valuable thing, your time, to us. And as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. Take care.